Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for this morning's session, which should last in the region of about 45 minutes max. We'll obviously try and pick up some questions along the way as well. Today we're looking at a reporting related webinar this morning, but we're looking at sort of the common query of I need a report to show this, or can you design one for me, or can I amend one? So we're going to look at things to do before you get to that point. So what options do you have? And it resolves the majority of our queries that we get like that. Could you use this this type of report and maybe just filter your list a little bit beforehand to get exactly what you're after. So we'll be running through those in today's session, just to check out some of those options. Now, before we get stuck into the webinar, just a little bit of housekeeping. As normal, you don't need a microphone for these sessions. If you do have one and you've enabled it, you will find that you're muted automatically. You can't unmute yourself during the session, which means if you've got any questions for us, then you'll need to pop them into the questions panel. To do that, you just need to click the little speech bubble icon, which is on the taskbar down the right-hand side of your screen. Give it a click, it'll expand the panel. You get access to that box in the bottom right-hand corner. So questions, comments, pop them in there. Remember to click send. I'll try my best to pick those up as we're working through the session. It is just myself running the session this morning, so do bear with me when you submit the questions. We'll try and get around to as many of them as we can. If anyone wants a copy of today's slides, they are available to download via the handouts icon. So if you just give that a click, there'll be two options. One is the full color version, and the other is what we term the print-friendly version, where the color's stripped out. As normal, the session is being recorded. You'll be sent a link to the recording afterwards as well. So you'll receive an email around about an hour after you finish. And that will include a link to today's recording. It will include a link so that you can register for other webinars that we've got coming up. And also, it'll include a link to our previous recordings as well. So if there's any topics you have missed, then do obviously have a look at that list and you can check those out. So as I say, that's around about an hour after you finish. Right, this is what we're going to be covering in this morning's session. So a little bit of an introduction to what we're covering today and why we're doing that as well. Then we'll just get stuck into some demonstrations. So having a look at the reports that are available to you, trying to find the right one. We'll look at filters and quick search, configuring your columns to display extra information or maybe hide information you don't want to see. We'll pick up on outputting Excel and also the additional reports library as well. Just at the end, I'll explain more about the additional support that's available. So if you all want extra help, what options have you got? And then if there are any outstanding questions at that point, I'll try and pick those up as well. Right, so let's get started. Just bear with me one moment there. Sorry about that. Right, okay, so the idea behind this session is helping you to get at the information you need without having to amend reports. It's a very common question. People contacting our support team and saying, well, it's sort of the information I'm after, but actually I need it restricted to only pick up certain accounts. So only displaying the information that you're after. So there's over 900 reports available in Sage 50 accounts. Obviously that will be dependent on the version of software you're running, the level of software you're running, so the variant. By that way, I'm referring to whether you run Sage 50 Accounts Essentials, Sage 50 Accounts Standard, or Sage 50 Accounts Professional. Obviously, the higher up the range you go, more features you've got, so the more reports and layouts you'd have available. But it also depends on things like what options you've got enabled as well. So if, for instance, are you using the foreign trader? If you are, there'll be more reports available. CIS, possibly your VAT scheme, will determine which reports are available as well. But there's loads of reports available. Some of them are quite similar. So if I just quickly share my screen, just as an example, we pop into customers and then go into the reports option. You might find on your toolbar, reports is showing as a separate option. And you'll see the list of folders down the left here. And if we just pick on aged debtors as an example, and you'll see there's quite a range of aged debtor reports available. You'll have a similar if you went into suppliers, looked at the aged creditors area. But there's loads of reports here and they're all slightly different. So it's what people have asked for over the years where additional reports have been added. So people want specifically, rather than just in account reference order, they've requested where it be in balance descending order. So whoever owes you the most is at the top of the list. One of the other issues though is because there are so many reports, it's having to find them. So as you can probably imagine, it's quite a common support query, that one. Sort of, I need a report that shows this. Where would I find that? It could be that people are in the wrong ledger. So you're looking for a product-based report. Maybe you based it you're looking within the product's ledger, or sometimes that will be available from, say, the invoicing ledger. So it again depends what you're after. So there are options, and we'll be picking on that in just a few minutes as well, as to try to get you to the right report to help you find it. But obviously one of the issues is understanding what you want to show. There's too much information, too little, you need to filter it beforehand, etc. And because of that, it's very easy to jump to the conclusion that you need a new report, or you found one that's similar and actually you need to edit that. But it's worth beforehand always exploring your options. So that's what we're going to look at in today's session. So we're not actually touching the report designer itself in today's session. What we're looking at is the options that you've got to almost like streamline the information for your existing reports, and obviously helping to find the right information in the first place. Now, there are a number of options which we'll be exploring in today's session. First one to mention is if you're on version 30 or above, you've got what we term the AI report finder tool. Now I'll show you a quick demonstration of this one, just so you can see what that actually looks like. Now, to have this available, I'll quickly share my screen. You would need to be on version 30 or 31, and you would need to have a Sage account linked to your accounts. So you can normally tell this by, if you went into settings and then user management and users, and against the manager logon, there would be a Sage account linked. So we'll actually have something there. Now, when that is the case, you will have the report finder tool available to you. Now, what do we mean by that? So when I go into customers as an example, and we access reports, this is the report finder tool here. Now, if you've got anything flagged as a favorite, so if I just quickly flag a report as a favorite, when you go into the reports area, it will default to that favorites folder on the left. If you don't have anything flagged, when you come into the reports area, what you'll find that it'll default to the report finder tool. So favorites gets priority if you've got anything flagged. So it could mean if you've got favorites that you might have you're on version 30 or 31, you've got a Sage account linked, but you've still never really noticed this option, this report finder option. So the idea of this is to try and get you at the relevant report. So there's a little link here as well. How does this work? So you can click on that and it'll give you some examples. So can I see the report on outstanding balances for our major clients? You can click the link, or you can just type into the field at the top. So I just search on one of them as an example. What it should do, just let it quickly search the reports. I've not tried this morning, so yeah, it's quite quick. So what it's done there, it's put that text in the example that was listed. It's put that into the search box, so you can just use like natural language for that. And it will try and identify the reports that would meet those requirements. So even for that, it's telling me there's 25 results have matched those search results. Obvious as well, if I just clear that, and if I just type in profit as an example, and then search, it will go off to search the reports that you've got available, and it will come back with a list of reports that potentially you would be looking for. Obviously, the more detail you put in that, the more sort of accurate it's going to be, sort of narrowing down the scope of the reports available. But the idea with this is that although it could be in the customers area, it's searching the whole of Sage 50 accounts to try and get you at the relevant information. I'm sure that you'll know profit and loss, and if you attended our management report sessions recently, you'll know that that's available from the nominal codes ledger. So normally you would just get those types of results if you were in the nominal codes area, but with the report finder, it helps you to get out the reports. So again, going back to that common query where people are actually in the wrong ledger and they can't find the report they're after. So this searches all of the ledgers and it gives you that sort of the results based on what you've keyed in. So it means you can access the reports easily from here as well. So I'm in customers, but because it suggested the profit and loss report based on what I typed at the top, I can actually run it from here. So I can get at that information really easily. Now, prior to this one coming along, this report finder option, which you'll find in all of the ledgers where you've got the reports. So again, if I just went into, let's say we went into the bank accounts area, into reports, again, you've got that report finder option. So it'll normally say favorites, then report finder. But to have that, as I say, you've got to be on version 30 or 31, and you must have a Sage account linked to your Sage account software. Now, for those of you that haven't done that, maybe you don't have time to set that up just yet, but it is a quick process, or maybe you're on an earlier version, there is an alternative to that, and it's our report finder tool. So this was the original option. If I just open my browser and we'll head into the help center. So to get to the help center, sage.co.uk/help. It would take you initially to this page. If you go to sage.co.uk/help, you would just choose your product, so Sage 50 accounts. And then if I just type in report finder. So this is something that's been around for a long time, the report finder. This one here, the second one on the list, which report. So helping you to find the reports you need in Sage 50 accounts. So I just give that a click, and then if you access the new report finder, sorry, not that one, which is the one I'm after. I'll go back one. So this is the link I want on that article. This is the one that you may have come across, so you're probably a little bit more likely to have come across. Now on this, it will list all of the reports that you have available to you potentially. Now it is for the full software, this list of reports. So some of them will say, right, this report, for instance, this account balances by account status, it's available in Sage 50 account standard and above. So meaning standard and professional. This one says it's available in all variants. Now you can show the filters. So if we're looking and thinking, well, what we're after is a customer report. And then, right, what is the information you want to include on there? So we'll just choose something like customer turnover. We'll apply the filters. Obviously, you can tick more boxes if required. And then it should give us an idea of what's available. So in this case, it's highlighting all of the age data analysis so I can get at turnover information. So it's not only telling us about the report and file name, its description, but it's also telling us where we need to run that from. You can, of course, a bit like the report finder tool that we originally looked at, you could type in some keywords if you want it into the search box. And again, it would do, if I just type profit, Should maybe clear the filters first. So we'll clear the filters, then I'll type profit, search on that. And again, it's showing us that list of reports. So it's filtered that list for us. Again, trying to identify the right report and guide us into the right direction. So loads of information, two great tools there. One, obviously, if you're on version 30 or 31, you've got that report finder within your software itself, within each of the ledgers when you go into reports. And if you're not, or you haven't yet linked a Sage account to your software, then you can just go into a help center and use that report finder article. Next, I want to pick up on in the software itself. If I just close out of these browser windows, let's close out of that as well. So we'll go back to our customers list. So there's a number of other options as well that you've got when it comes to reporting. So helping you to get at the information. So common issues, too much information, too little, maybe you need to filter it. So I've got a report here, for instance, or a list of customers, sorry, where we've got loads of zero balances. Now we might not want those to be included on a report. Maybe we just want a list of customers that have a balance. So you can apply basic filters. If you've never used filters before, do spend a little bit of time looking at that, because when I used to work on the support line, you get loads of queries about reports and trying to narrow it down. It adds so much more flexibility to even the reports that you've got available. You're not designing a new report, you're just filtering it so only the information that you're after is included on the report. So if I run a report and say it was something like, say, a customer list, it would just give me a great big list. So it's including all of them. Got all that information on there. But let's say I only wanted to include those accounts that have a balance. So rather than me go down and say, right, I'm going to highlight them, and let's face it, you're probably going to have a lot more customers than the 28 or so that I've got enabled. Rather than you go down the list and start selecting them all, much easier to apply a filter. So if I go into filters, and we'll just clear that one, and we'll do where. And if we do a basic one, probably one of the most common filters is based on balance. So I'm going to do where balance. So just scroll down to the field for balance. Now, if you know what it's called, you could just press the first letter of that and it would start cycling through the ones beginning with that letter. So for instance, if I'm in that field, if I type B, it goes down to the first one, the first field beginning with the letter B. And then if I just keep pressing B, you'll see it starts cycling here through the ones that are available. But it's balance I'm after. Let's get back to that one. There we go. And I'll say is not equal to, and then we're going to set the value to 0. So what we're after is a list of customers in this case that do not have a 0 balance. Now there's loads of fields to choose from. So some of the filters you can do can be quite complex. So, you could base it around, say, address information, analysis fields. It's entirely up to you what you want to do that, base it on. But we're just going to base it on balance for the time being. We're going to say where balance is not equal to 0, click apply. And what I'm left with, or in this case, the 4 records that meet the requirements of that filter, that criteria. So it means that if I now go and run the report, obviously it's only going to pick up the ones that are either listed or the ones that I've selected, which is much easier than me going up and down that list, selecting the records I'm after. means that you haven't just accidentally missed one either. If I wanted back to that full list, all I would do is I would either go into filter, click clear form, then apply the blank filter, or I can leave that filter on in the background, but I've got this toggle switch to switch it on and off. So if I switch it off, it goes back to my full list again. The other thing to think about as well, with on a similar theme there, is using inactive records. Now we've got a webinar booked in for this one. It should be, I think that's next week, that one. So inactive records. So what you can do, certain records, you might think, well, actually we don't deal with that customer anymore, or maybe it was a one-off, or maybe the customer's gone bust, and you're not in a position to delete them yet. Maybe you don't want to do that. You want to leave them in there. If it's a one-off, you might think, well, actually, just in case, we'll leave them on there. Then you never know, they might come back to us in the future. So you can use things like inactive records to hide records. So if we just pick on this first one at the top here, this A1 Design Services, if I go into it, I've got this little inactive checkbox. If I tick it to say, right, I want to flag this one as being inactive, click Save. Actually, it's telling me I can't on that one, so I'll choose a different one. So we'll just choose this Malcolm Hall. We'll flag that one as being inactive. Lets me do it this time. So there is criteria that needs to be met to be able to flag a record as being inactive. It's not just going to let you do all of them. And that means from here, I could say, right, well, actually, when I'm running reports, I don't want to include any that are flagged as being inactive. So it's listed at the moment, but if I take this tick out of the box at the top, it filters the list. So I'm saying I don't want to include inactive records in my list. So that Malcolm Hall account, it's still there in the background, but it's no longer listed. It means when I go to run a report, because it's not there, it's not going to be included. If I want it back, just tick the box. There it is. It's back on the list again. Again, so it's nice and easy to flag them. If you're on the standard edition or the professional edition of Sage 50 Accounts, then you've got the batch changes option as well, which means that you could go down and you could select a number of records, and then rather than go into them one at a time, you can choose the batch changes option and say, right, I want to flag all of those records as being inactive. I'll click Save. Yes to the prompt about making changes to multiple records. And it will flag whichever of those records meet the criteria to be flagged. So you can see we've got quite a few done there. And then if I want them all to be hidden, take the tick out, and it removes them from the list. So it just hides them in the background. Now that option is available in customers, suppliers, nominal codes, bank accounts ledger, and also your products and services list as well. So if you're not in a position to remove records, either because of the position you're in, or maybe you just don't want to, then it's a good way of sort of flagging them as being inactive and then just hiding them before you go to run a report. With a similar theme as well, you've got the custom fields option. Now, Lisa, this might sort of link in with yours as well. Lisa was just asking about reports to not include. You mentioned direct debit and standing order balances. So if you can flag your records in some way, so again, if you think, well, I can't find a standard report that I'm after, could you flag your particular records in a specific way? So this is where you could maybe use the likes of a custom field. So if I just choose this County Golf Supplies as an example, appreciate I'm still in customers, but if we go to defaults, you've got these analysis fields here. Now, if you'd flagged certain accounts to say, right, well, actually we pay this one by standing order, or in this case, this customer pays us by standing order, we might just put something in here, such as, let's say, SO. We might change the title as well to payment type. And I could save it. Now I could go through a number of records like that. I'll do that one as well, Graham Electronics into defaults. So I'll just put SO in there as well, just as an example. And again, save it. Now I could base filters on any of the fields, but because I've used that one specifically so I can flag them the way I want it, what I can then do is again go back to my filters list, and I would look for analysis 1 in this instance. Scroll up the list there to find it. If you've renamed it, that text will change on that list as well to whatever you've changed it to. So we're looking for analysis 1, and we're going to say, let's just say is equal to SO at this stage. Apply it. Oh, I've put it's not equal to. I'll say is equal to. And then what I'm left with are the accounts that have SO in that first field. Obviously, I can do it the other way, and I could say where analysis field is not equal to that. So I'm then left with all of the records that don't have SO in that analysis field. And it means I can then run the reports, and it's only going to be based around the ones I've got actually listed. Now there is a recorded webinar on custom fields, or what's sometimes referred to as analysis fields. So it'll cover things like common uses. So if you flag your customers or suppliers as just like trade customers, retail customers, cash-based customers, that type of thing. Again, it's just all to do with categorizing it. You may categorize your customers against something like an accounts manager. So if you've got, say, 3 or 4 account managers, again, you could go into the records, choose one of the analysis fields, and you could pop something in the relevant analysis field. So if I just put my name in there as an example, let's say I'm the account manager for that one. Click Save, and then from my list, again, I could apply a filter. This time it was in the analysis 2 field, and I'll say is equal to. Pop in the whatever I'm after, click apply, and then I've got that record. So that's the one I'd flagged. And again, you could build them up. So it means that, if you are doing an age debtors or an age creditors report and you're thinking, well, I only want it to pull through certain accounts. So if your function is credit control, and let's say maybe you work by an alphabetical split, so you work A to G, for instance, you could apply a filter based around that, where account reference is sort of A star, for instance, or an asterisk. There's various options for you with regard to those the custom fields and the analysis options as well. But it's a great way of sort of tailoring your list. And again, you've got these options in just about all of your ledgers. So if it's invoices and credits, again, you can apply filters. You've got it within suppliers, you've got filters, you've got analysis fields in there as well. It means that you can trim down the data so only the information you're after is included on it. So again, if you haven't done that yet and you're not that familiar with filters, do spend a bit of time looking at that. Some great recorded webinars on that one. Next, if we just pop back to customers, and I'll switch that filter off just to get back to my full list. I'll include inactive in that list as well, just at this stage. Now, another option that you may not have come across is the configurable columns. This is the kind of thing we do mention regularly, where you can show or hide additional columns. Now, sometimes you might run a report and think, well, actually, I want this information as well. So let's say we wanted a list of balances, and maybe we want some additional information. Have we got an email address for that specific customer? So what we can do is right-click any of your column headings. So I just right-click, and it will then give you a list of the fields that are available to show or hide. So if you switch on email 1, just as an example, it pops that column on there for me. To make some of these a little bit narrower. Now what I can't do, it is a restriction, I can't rearrange the order of those columns, but I can display additional information. So I can see the email addresses. So have a good look through that as well. Quite often, the kind of reports we're asked for or lists, I want it to include X information. So is that available? Is it as simple as right-clicking and I want a specific column switched on? Lindsay, I'll come back to your question in a moment. Lindsay's just asking about sort of commission on monthly sales, etc. So we'll come back to that one in just a moment. So config columns. So as I say, you might be looking, think, well, actually, I'm going to start chasing customers that haven't contacted or haven't purchased anything me for a while. Is it just I'm going to contact them, or maybe I'm just going to go through and filter them? Are they still an active customer or not? So have a good look through this list. Is it the last invoice date you want to base it on? So I'm looking for customers whose last invoice, I can see that listed, and I can apply a filter for that as well. I can say, right, well, give me a list of customers whose last invoice was on or before a certain date. Right, they're the ones I'm going to. Maybe they moved on to a different supplier. Why is that? So that's the type of information you can actually easily get at, and I could apply a filter based around that last invoice date as well, and then run my report. But quite often when people are after reports, they just want a basic list. So maybe a list of customers and likes of the last invoice date. So don't overlook just switching on columns, and don't overlook using Excel either. That's very common as well. It's quite common to contact our support team and say, right, I want this report, and actually it's just a one-off. And rather than go through the rigmarole of trying to design a report, just sending the information to Excel is quite common. It's more than enough. So from this list, I could say, well, actually, I could print it, but I might just want to send it to Excel and do my own analysis on whatever's listed then. So just click it, it will send across whatever's listed. Just let me just drag that across, just opened on my other screen there. So I've got that full list there. I might think, well, actually, I didn't want to transfer certain information, so just do that. Maybe we didn't want to send this column. Maybe we don't want that one to be displayed. Just scroll down, I'll switch that one off. Maybe I'm not interested in the inactive column. Find it on the list. Switch it off. Maybe I'm not interested in the credit limit at this stage. Switch it off. Telephone number, don't want it. And then I've trimmed down the information a little bit. I've got everything that I need. Send to Excel. So it'll only send that information across that is listed. And again, it's probably you'd be surprised how many queries that resolves. Just people overlooking the opposite and think the obvious, sorry, and thinking, well, actually, I need a new report because what I'm after, it doesn't exist. Well, I'll quickly pick up a couple of questions there. So, Lindsay, you were saying you have an employee who receives commission on a monthly basis. Can you use analysis and put his name into the filter of his customers? So absolutely, yes. Now, there is a standard report for that type of thing as well, if I find it. And it's this one, Agents Commission. So some of these ones will actually pick up certain information automatically. I believe it's analysis field 2 that it is based around. But again, you could just filter beforehand. Now, if you wanted to rename the field, so if we just go into a customer as an example, we have a look at defaults, and at the moment mine are just called analysis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, but I can rename those fields. So if I go into settings, configuration, and then we find the custom fields tab at the top, and then you've got the ones for the customer record. So if I put account manager, actually I'll just abbreviate that because you've only got so many characters, account manager, and OK that, and then go back into customers, pop into this one, back onto the defaults, and you'll see that that text comes through. So these are just then text-based fields, the boxes themselves. So you can record whatever you want in amongst that. So it means that you can, by changing the title, you've got that bit consistency then. So people know they're not sat there thinking, oh, right, the employee who looks after this, which field do we put that in again? Is it to field 2 or 3? You've changed the title to make it more obvious, just to avoid those mistakes. So it makes it easy to do that. And of course, you can filter, as we did earlier, we can filter on that, where account manager is equal to Michael. To apply that, that's the results. Remember, you got batch changes as well. So if you haven't set that up before, what I could do is think, well, I'm going to go down and say, right, that one, and we'll say those two, that all we want to associate Michael with all of those. So with them selected, if I go into batch changes, I can go into the defaults tab and say, right, account manager for those ones is, I can't even spell my name right today. Still missed an H out. There we go. I've just selected from the list. So I want the account manager for those records that I've selected to be Michael. So I'll save the changes. Yes to the prompt about making changes to multiple records. That's it done. And if I reapply that filter, you can see the results. So these are the ones that have Michael in that analysis 2 field. And what it then means is I can run whatever report I want, and it'll only be based around the ones I've got selected. So there are a number of options there for you, Lindsay. Normally when it's an employee who receives commission on that monthly basis, as long as you can find the information you're after. So if there's a report already that exists, provides the right information for you, then this is the type of thing that can make it that bit easier. So getting at your list, those customers associated with that employee. Hope that makes sense. If not, do check out some of the recordings that we've got. So the link will be included on your follow-up email. So custom fields being one, and then using filters being the other one. It just adds so much flexibility onto your reports. So Lisa, you mentioned there, is there an age creditors report that does not include the direct debit or standing order balances? So what you'd be after in this sort of position, so if we went into suppliers, is have you got them flagged in any particular way? So by default, if you've got let's say a supplier where, let's say you pay this Concept Stationery by standing order, have you got it flagged in any way, or is it just a case you enter an invoice and you just know that's how we pay them? Have you got it recorded somewhere within the record in Sage that this is the method of payment for that supplier? Now, one thing you do have available, let's just see if we can get at it, is in the bank tab, you've got a payment method. So there is an option there, just called direct debit stroke standing order. Could I flag it? Yes, I could use one of the analysis fields that we looked at a little bit earlier, but what about this one? The payment method, we'll just set that as direct debit standing order. We'll save it. Now I'm just going to see if this is available. I'm not sure off the top of my head. So it'll be called, I'm assuming, payment method. There it is. So payment method, and I'll say is equal to. It lists them. So I'm after the one I'm after. And then I would just click apply. And it lists the ones that meet that criteria. If I want it the other way, so you mentioned, is there an age credits report that doesn't include that? So I can reverse the filter and I'll say where payment method is not equal to that. What I'm now left with are those suppliers that aren't flagged for direct debit stroke standing order. I'll now go and run my reports. You've just achieved what we're after. So again, if you can't find a report you're after, right, is there another way to crack that nut? So filters, analysis fields, great way to get at that type of, sort of narrow down your reports to get at the information on your report that you're after. Much easier than you saying, right, this one isn't paid by standing order, this one isn't, this one isn't, this one isn't, this one isn't, and going down making the selection that you want to include on the report. You apply your filter, you can always switch it off, and you're back to your full list there. So give that a go, have a bit play with filters. One thing to bear in mind with filters is that when you apply them, it'll only apply it to your list. It doesn't affect your colleagues. So it's what we would term user specific. So in the background, it'll create some like index files that will be linked to your username. So if I apply a filter, let's just do it the other way, back to equal to, so I get a very short list. So if I've got that, and let's say John comes and logs on his PC, he would get the list of suppliers, excuse me, and it would be determined by the filters that he's got applied, if anything, or not applied. Right, now if you've got any final questions for me for today, if you want to quickly start popping them in, I'll try and pick those up before we end the session today, but it sort of brings us towards the end of the webinar. Obviously, we run this one because it is such a common query, and it links in with a couple of the questions we've had today. Just bear with me one moment there. Sorry about that. So if you've got any of those final questions, please pop them in there, and I'll try and pick them up in just a moment. Remember, there is a copy of today's slides, not much information on there, to be quite honest. But if you do want a copy of today's slides, I know some of you like to collect them almost, then you can download them at this point. As I mentioned earlier, the link to today's recording with also links so you can register for our upcoming webinars that currently runs up to the end of May. We'll shortly be adding June as well, but it currently runs up to the end of May. So have a good look through that list, get yourself registered. There'll also be a link on that email so you can access the recordings that I've mentioned a little bit about today as well. So you get that in around about an hour's time. Our help centre is a great source of information as well. We use that early on for the report finder option to help you get at the information you're after. So give that a go. Remember to use that report finder if you're on version 30 or 31. You need to have a Sage account linked to your Sage account software. If you can't find that, then it should prompt you there and then. So Help Center will give you access to support guides, webinars, little videos, and know fine well there's a few little videos tucked in there on using the filters, such as hiding zero balances, hiding invoices prior to a certain date, that type of thing. So loads in there. One thing that might interest you, you've probably heard about this, hopefully you have by now, is the introduction of Copilot into Sage 50 accounts. Now, if you want to find out more about this, we are running webinars. We've got one at 2 o'clock this afternoon, but otherwise we run them on a weekly basis. So if you just want to come along, and maybe some of you have seen the shortcut for it on your taskbar at the top, maybe some of you are actually using it, or maybe others, you're just completely in the dark and you think, well, I've heard of it, but not sure. Come along, get yourself signed up. So Copilot Insights, it provides an extra, almost like top level information on certain themes. So things like managing debt, managing stock, checking out your business performance and profitability, helping you to try and identify mistakes based on your historic information. So if you enter a bank payment, maybe you've entered that with an unusual value or the wrong nominal code or tax code for transactions that you've entered similar to that in the past, it'll try and identify that for you. So if you are interested, there is a link, it'll be included on your follow-up email. So do get yourself registered. Quick question from Shireen there. Will there be any training on changing layouts or so invoice layouts? We don't currently have any logged in, but scheduled, sorry, but we have run them in the past and we will be running them again in the future, but nothing scheduled at the moment. So in this case, I would encourage you to check out the recordings. It'll be in the report design area. So let me just show you that one. I'll quickly share my screen just for a second. I'll bring up my browser. So the link that you get given on the follow-up email will be take you to this web page, which is our registration page. It's not that one I want the other one. I want the recordings, which is the other link you get given. And if you just scroll down to the reporting area, this one here, Report Designer Webinar Series, and there's this one here, using the design tools to personalize your invoices and other layouts. So that's the one you're after. There's quite a few. So we've just rerun this session today. So we've obviously run it in the past. There's a previous recording, but this is the one that you'd be after, Shireen. So if you check that one, it'll guide you through making the basic changes. But again, with layouts, there are loads available for things like your invoices. We'd never really encourage you to design your own. We'd say, right, find the one that's closest to what you want and then make changes to it. That's by far the easiest thing to do and the biggest time saver. Hope that makes sense. So link will be included on your follow-up email. If you can't wait the hour to get that, just head along to sage.co.uk/webinars. Right, back to the slides just one last time. So again, get yourself signed up for Copilot, find out more about that. Next one is at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and then there'll be, as I say, there's a one on a weekly basis at that point. Right, just about up to speed with all the questions. So many thanks for coming along. We're just about ready to end the webinar. So little survey pops up as you leave. If you can take a minute to complete that, it'd be greatly appreciated. Love to know what you thought of the webinar. Was it what you were expecting? Ideas for other topics going forward that you'd like to see covered maybe? Pop them all on there. So if you could do that, it'd be really appreciated. Your follow-up email will be with you in around about an hour. Hopefully, we'll see you on some other webinars soon. Many thanks.